Wagwan. Good morning, good night, welcome back. And if you're listening for the first time, I'm your host Melanie Byfield, welcoming you to episode 27 of The Real Situation, where we give you a taste of Jamaican politics. Congratulations to the festival song winner Abby D with her tune Sweet Jamaica. I must say, I did absolutely love the guys who came in second. Brother C and Jegs with their tune, Comic with Rally. Wicked nice tune. Very festivally. Is that a word? It's all for talent in Jamaica anyway. And, you know, I just love that festival song tradition. Happy Independence Day. Today, Jamaica celebrates 63 years as an independent nation and once again is on a journey to become fully independent from the British and become a republic. As a reminder of what that actually means, Jamaica's head of state is a British monarch, the Constitution is a colonial document, and the highest court of the land is the Privy Council in London. The reform taking place is attempting to accomplish three things, right? To remove the British monarch as head of state, to be replaced with a Jamaican head of state, to transform Jamaica's system of governance from a constitutional monarchy to a constitutional republic. Remembering that a constitutional monarchy is a form of government where the monarch serves as the head of state, right? The public representative, and in Jamaica's case, the highest executive. And their symbolic power is limited by a constitution. That, of course, is arguable, right? Because reading the Constitution, we know the power of the monarch represented by the GG is more than symbolic. The governance is also under a constitutional monarchy handled by a prime minister. A constitutional republic is a form of government where power is held by the people and their elected representatives. The power of the head of state and elected officials is limited by a constitution. So we were talking about those three things the reform is attempting to accomplish, right? The third thing is the 1962 Order in Council, which is the constitution that was passed after independence in 1962. That would be Jamaicanized into a constitution of Jamaica by, for, and of the people. Problem. There was an expectation of a number 4, and that would have moved Jamaica's highest court from the Privy Council in London to the Caribbean Court of Justice in Trinidad. Jamaica's full independence and decolonization from Britain started with political independence in 1962. Jamaica doesn't have judicial sovereignty nor executive sovereignty, since both of those matters have been retained by the colonial country. The bill addresses one, but not the other. When Justice Winston Anderson was sworn in by the Governor-General, GG, as the 4th president of the CCJ on July 6 in Jamaica, the country of his birth, he addressed a couple of reasons why Jamaica should ascend to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ. Number one, Jamaica is obligated to become a full member of the CCJ by treaty. Jamaica's currently a member of the originating jurisdiction. That is where a case first starts and before there's been any appeal. Number two, the CCJ wasn't imposed on Jamaica by a foreign power. Number three, it was conceived and established by the people of the Caribbean to serve Caribbean interests. And number four, it's an institution worthy of Jamaica's judicial sovereignty, whose judgments are cited in nearly every common law Caribbean jurisdiction. That's what Justice Anderson is saying. The bill that was laid in Parliament in December 2024 failed to address any movement of the Apex Court. I say it's a problem because the opposition party withdrew their participation in the Joint Select Committee on the basis that the administration hasn't presented its reasons for leaving Jamaica's highest court in London, and therefore those that are the decision makers of the highest court in the land remain in the former colonial country. Once the apex court rules, that is it. An article in the Gleaner raises more issues where Jamaica not ascending to the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ is concerned. There was an article called "Get on Board CCJ" last month. And it basically said that it was embarrassing at that CARICOM summit in Montego Bay, where Winston Anderson, a Jamaican, was administered his oath of office as President of the Caribbean Court of Justice by the island's Governor-General, Sir Patrick Allen, in the presence of Prime Minister Andrew Holness, whose administration remains opaque to the country's accession to the civil and criminal jurisdiction of the regional court. Yes, a bit awkward, isn't it? A bit awkward. The article goes on to say the status of the island's apex court is a critical element in Jamaica's constitutional reform process, which shouldn't be decoupled from or cause a lag behind removing the British monarch, King Charles, as Jamaica's head of state. At present, Jamaica's final court is the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, a London-based body that technically is a legal adjudicating arm within the King's Council of Advisors. Therefore, theoretically, while the judges who preside over the Privy Council are the same ones who sit on the UK Supreme Court, when a Jamaican lodges an appeal to the Privy Council, it's a prayer to the King, executed by his advisors. The author goes on to say, not only is this a powerful and repugnant remnant of Britain's colonial authority, but the Privy Council is far removed and inaccessible to large amounts of Jamaicans in distance psychologically and economically. The court sits in the UK, where Jamaicans have no right of entry by treaty or otherwise. Litigants before the court have no guarantee of being granted an expensive visa to enter Britain. Engaging British lawyers to appear before the court isn't cheap. Neither is sending one from Jamaica an inexpensive venture. In the circumstances, it's hardly surprising that only a handful of appeals from Jamaica are annually heard by the Privy Council, and that these are matters mostly involving corporations or well-heeled individuals, except for murder convictions where British lawyers may, not will, may handle the cases pro bono, meaning at no charge. He goes on to say the Privy Council is a product of an agreement between the members of CARICOM, a trade and cooperation group that is working at evolving into a single market and economy. In its original jurisdiction, the court resolves disputes over the interpretation of the CARICOM Treaty of Charamangas, in which respect Jamaica is fully signed up. Some more from this article. It says during the CCJ's early construction, there was an apparent wariness over its independence and sustainability. The CCJ, though, is among the world's most insulated courts, both in terms of the system for selecting judges and its financing, via a trust fund that was originally seeded by regional governments. The basis of Mr. Holness's continued reticence isn't clear. Why is he holding out? I guess he's saying not clear. But the Jamaican Constitution provides an easy pathway for leaving the CCJ and a relatively simple one for accession to the CCJ. Parliament, by simple majority, that is 50% of more than the majority of more than 50% of the members present and voting in the House, could abolish appeals to the Privy Council leaving the island's Court of Appeal as the final court. But instituting a court above the Court of Appeal would then require a similar entrenchment, which means that it would have to be passed by a 2/3 majority in either House of Parliament. A difficulty in the Senate unless at least one opposition member votes in favour, but it does not require a referendum as is needed with removing the monarchy. The article goes on to say, this newspaper, however, supports, as Barbados's Prime Minister Mia Mottley urged her CARICOM colleagues in Montego Bay, an urgent, uncomplicated accession to the CCJ. Not only has the court displayed exemplary independence over its 2 decades of operation, but the stellar quality of its jurisprudence has been globally remarked on. With Justice Anderson as its 4th president, we believe the court remains on a path of deepening excellence. And the article wraps up saying, as Sir Patrick Allen said on Sunday, Justice Anderson's elevation was a resounding testament to our regional confidence in our own talents, values, and ability to lead on the world stage. Yes. There's a lot of support for Jamaica moving the Apex Court from London to Port of Spain. Here are examples of just a few. Number one, the opposition PNP party. Mark Golden said, we are not boycotting that committee, meaning the Joint Select Committee. But until the Prime Minister, who's been promising for over a year to say what his position is on this issue, comes to the Jamaican people and explains his position, we are pausing our participation with that committee. So I correct what I said earlier. They didn't withdraw. They said they're going to break, pause until that information is brought forward by the Prime Minister. Who else is supporting the moving of the Apex Court? In the latest Don Anderson poll in February 2025, a poll of 1,201 Jamaicans over the age of 18 was done, and they were asked how they would vote if a referendum was to be held to decide whether the CCJ should become Jamaica's final appellate court. And 32% said they would vote for it. 20% said they would not, and 38% said that they weren't sure how they would vote or they didn't know. Another supporter, the new president of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Winston Anderson. He describes the court as an institution of excellence, a symbol of Caribbean maturity and independence, and stated that his hope is that during his tenure, country members will fulfill their treaty obligations and become full members of the appellate jurisdiction. And I think he said that when he was looking the Prime Minister like dead in the face, right? And then the next one is Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. She said that we're aware that there are some countries that have the requirement of a referendum, Jamaica being one, but this, like everything else, ought to be the subject of public education. And if we can do so, then I believe we can finally start to move the needle generationally for us recognizing that this ought to be our final court. I mean, that whole public education thing is real, right? When you have 38% of people indicating that they're unsure how they would vote in a referendum for the CCJ or didn't know. Did I tell you that I love Mia Mottley? I love Mia Mottley. We love our bad, spectacular leader. Yes. Ms. Mottley. Okay. So, still on the subject of the CCJ, in an Observer article last month, the opposition leader told the crowd that the PNP is determined to repatriate Jamaica's final court by cutting ties with the UK-based Privy Council, which has been the country's final court since independence. arguing that the Privy Council is inaccessible to most Jamaicans. Mr. Goldin declared that nobody in this audience can take a case to the Privy Council. It's not a real court for Jamaica because you have to be a multi-millionaire to take a case there, and you have to have a UK visa as well, which you don't necessarily must get. The PNP president noted that the CCJ was established 20 years ago. It's fully funded by a trust which Jamaica contributes to and is well protected from political interference, having its own regional judicial commission for the appointment of judges, which no politician in any island can interfere with. Mr. Goldin said, "Time come for full sovereignty. Let us use the CCJ. The countries in the Caribbean that are doing well, Guyana, Barbados, St. Lucia, Dominica, Belize, they're all using it. Their people have benefited from access to justice, and we are hoping the Jamaica Labour Party can remove the veil from their eyes," said Mr. Goldin. But the CCJ is not the only problem. There's a lot more. There was an article in the Gleaner last month where it's called Constitution Bill in Limbo. The article says, with the current parliamentary term ending on or before September 14, the bill won't be debated and voted on by lawmakers before Jamaicans go to the polls to elect a new government. The bill will have to be introduced at the start of a new session of the legislature after the general election. A joint select committee, as we know, has been reviewing the bill and was expected to submit a report to Parliament on its deliberations, but as of today, August 6, their report hasn't been finalised and produced to the public. The article goes on to say constitutional expert Dr. Lloyd Barnett said the current bill before Parliament is in limbo or almost dead because it can't be passed again in this Parliament. The only circumstances in which a constitutional bill can survive is if it's passed through the House of Representatives already, and then it could survive to the next Parliament. The constitutional scholar argued that if the ruling Jamaica Labour Party wins the upcoming elections, it would just retable the bill and continue with the committee hearing. The opposition People's National Party has said that it would not proceed with the current process unless the Caribbean Court of Justice's appellate court is accepted. And Mr. Barnett is suggesting that they would carry out a new examination and reformulation of the constitutional proposals. The article, let me read you another part of this article. It says, when Minister of Legal, this is how the article kind of wraps up. When Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs Marlene Malahou-Fort tabled the bill in the lower house in December 2024, she said the move marks the greatest progress made so far in our effort to reform the Constitution of Jamaica to achieve the national goals of having a Jamaican as head of state instead of the hereditary British monarch, and also having our supreme law taken out from under the cloak of the imperial order in council and placed in proper form. I mean, it sounds good, right? But in reality, the apex court is being left under the cloak. And there's a whole heap more, which makes that progress of national goals kind of questionable. Speaking of Lloyd Barnett, him and Marlene Malahou-Fort butted heads. There was a forum, a PSOJ forum, private sector organisation of Jamaica, which was moderated by Jeanette Calder of JAMP, Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. And this Gleaner article, I'm going to read you a little bit from this article. It says, they clashed over the Andrew Holness administration's stance on fixed election dates. a campaign promise made by the Prime Minister almost a decade ago. Lloyd Barnett, who was a member of the Constitutional Reform Committee, directly challenged Malahoo Fort on why the committee's recommendation to fix general election dates wasn't included in the Republic Bill that was tabled in December. He said, "I haven't heard so far any reason given why that recommendation is rejected." So there was some back and forth between them, right? She says, "Yes, Dr. Barnett, the cabinet of which I am a part, accepted the recommendations of the CRC. I don't know if I can put it any clearer than that." To which he replied, "Okay, then go forward with the recommendation. It should be in the bill because there's no express opposition to it and there's no indication that there's a public resistance to it." So they keep on going back and forth, and then Malahoo Fort says, actually, there's no consensus on this point between the government and opposition, which seemed to stun Lloyd Barnett. But then she said, "Please don't ask me to say anything else, anything further on that." To which he was like, "Well, you should have told me that. Because as a member of the CRC, if there was no consensus on it, I wouldn't have agreed to the report being written in those terms." So the article says that the JLP party, when they won the election, had promised a series of reforms, including fixed election dates and term limits. But shortly before this forum, the JLP campaign team revealed that the party's position on fixed election dates may not be settled. In fact, it goes on to say that Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith said, who's the chair of the Manifesto Committee, said, "They're still not settled, and therefore I think when we get to that stage of the campaign, it will be more clear what are the elements that we will be putting forward." That's an interesting statement, considering there's an election next month. Right? So the article goes on to say there was broad consensus among the panelists that fixed election dates would improve fairness in the democratic process, reduce the advantage currently held by prime ministers who alone can determine election timing, and allow for better planning by government and business. Mr. Barnett says, "There has, as far as I know, never been a statement by any Prime Minister or political leader in opposition to fixed election dates." In fact, Donna Scott Motley referenced a poll where 81 in 2023 by Don Anderson, where 81.1% of Jamaicans surveyed supported fixed election dates. Now this was interesting. Malahoo Fort acknowledged the concerns about Holness's 2016 promise, but noted that commitments can be problematic. She said, "There is a lesson to be learnt in making statements. I know the Prime Minister is well-intentioned, and this is a matter that remains under consideration. But very often we make announcements without being mindful of the kind of work that will be required to move the issue forward and to actually make the changes that are desired." What an interesting statement. So yes, the constitutional reform process has what seems like some real impassable potholes that it could be argued have ended the journey. The absolutely inadequate public education campaign and public engagement, term limits, fixed election dates, the role of parliamentarians, recall, impeachment, appointment to the Senate and qualification for ministers. I mean, these were not only issues raised by the public, but issues that were raised by Dr. Mike Henry, that he drew attention to in a presentation he made on May 23rd, 2023 at a CRC meeting. And as per the minutes, he stated that our public engagement should include some public education, and most importantly, the CRC should listen to the public regarding their aspirations for constitutional reform, and the committee should strive to build consensus regarding our republic. He spoke about the significant pay hike to MPs and ministers in the absence of accountability structures and systems, performance indicators, evaluations or appraisals that was tantamount to paying oneself from the public purse for abject inefficiency, woefully inadequate performance, and rewarding poor performers, borrowing words articulated through public outcry that it was obscene, vulgar, brazen, and contemptuous. Everywhere you go, it's the same thing. Governance and accountability. Literally present in every direction you turn where constitutional reform is concerned. Super important and very relevant and central to the submission that was made to members of Parliament by Advocates Network, National Integrity Action and others, who are saying that the bill in this form can't work and the reform needs to take a different direction with proper public education and addressing the issues of governance, structure and accountability. The entire system needs a revolution. So why did I use this title? It takes a revolution to make a solution. What's the meaning of the word revolution from a political science standpoint? It basically means to turn something around, a rapid transformation of a structure. There's a very strong argument that this bill needs to be rapidly turned around to include a total transformation of the governing structure of Jamaica. What does the Ordering Council of 1962 and the Constitutional Reform Bill of 2024 seem to have in common? Both failed where public education and a public campaign are concerned. In the words of Donna Scott Motley from the earlier argument about the clash, over term limits, she said, if we are a democracy, we need to listen to the people. Remember, if you're not registered to vote, September 30, 2025 is the deadline to register for the November 30, 2025 voters list. You ain't going to be voting in this election, which is expected by mid-September, but there's going to be plenty more opportunities to cast your vote as a citizen of Jamaica, so don't let that stop you. Please register to vote. March 31, 2026 is the next deadline to register for the May 31, 2026 voters list. I hope you're continuing to enjoy the journey, finding it educational and useful and ting. I'm still confident the journey will end with Jamaica becoming a republic, a truly and fully independent and sovereign Jamaica land we love. I'm going to leave you with my Independence Day poem, which unfortunately is still relevant. A happy Independence Day from me and mine to you. I'm praying that real soon we'll have an independence that's true. Let's emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, although it seems we're not quite free. King Charles III still has a say over you, and me. This country is magnificent. Just look around and see the amazing vegetation and beautiful Caribbean Sea. Yet we are suffering as a people, an exploited former colony. Land full of wood and water, and belly full, but we're hungry. Is this the time for us to stand up truly independent as one? Executive, legislative, and judicial freedom, will it finally be won? We're not ignorant, I mean it. And with the guidance from God above, we will be a new republic. Jamaica, 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 land we love. You can find this podcast on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Spotify, Podcast Index, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And if you want to reason about anything, or you can't find any of the material I was talking about, you can email me on atasteofja@outlook.com. Until the next time, thank you for supporting this podcast. Please subscribe, like, follow, and share it with family and friends. And again, I thank you for taking the time to listen. Happy Independence Day. One love. Yes, the word is love.